Moving into a new house is supposed to be exciting, right? But what if the place you call home doesn't want you there? This isn't just a story about creaky floors or flickering lights. No, this is the kind of story that keeps you up at night wondering if you're ever truly alone. Tonight we're diving into a tale that will make you question the walls around you, the shadows in the corner, and every sound you hear when the house should be quiet. A young family's dream home turns into something else entirely, something much darker, much colder. By the end, you'll see why some doors should never be opened. Let's begin. It all started on a crisp autumn afternoon. Emma and Daniel, along with their 6-year-old daughter Lily, had just bought a charming Victorian house on the outskirts of a sleepy little town. It was perfect, or so they thought. High ceilings, a sprawling backyard, and enough history to make it feel special. The previous owners had sold it at a suspiciously low price, but Emma chalked it up to the market. "People get desperate," she had said. The first few days were uneventful. Boxes were unpacked, rooms were painted, and life began to settle into its usual rhythm. But it didn't take long for small, strange things to happen. At first, they were easy to brush off. A misplaced set of keys, lights turning off on their own, and the faint smell of something burnt wafting through the air. "Old wiring," Daniel said with a shrug. But Emma wasn't so sure. The smell didn't linger in one place, it moved like it was alive. Things took a darker turn one night when Emma was tucking Lily into bed. "Mommy, who's the lady in the hallway?" Lily asked innocently, her wide eyes peering past her mother's shoulder. Emma froze. There was no one there. "There's no lady, sweetheart. You must have imagined it," Emma said, trying to mask the unease in her voice. But Lily was adamant. "She's there every night. She watches me." The next morning, Daniel laughed it off. "Kids have vivid imaginations," he said. But even he couldn't explain the shadowy handprints they found on Lily's bedroom window, on the outside, 3 stories up. As the weeks passed, the incidents grew more intense. Footsteps echoed through the halls at odd hours. The family dog Max refused to go into the basement, growling and barking at the closed door. Lily began to sleepwalk, often ending up in front of that same basement door, staring at it with a blank expression. One evening, Emma decided to investigate. Armed with a flashlight and a shaky resolve, she descended the creaking stairs into the basement. It was cold, unnaturally so. The air felt heavy, and there was a faint humming noise that seemed to come from the walls themselves. As she shone her flashlight around, the beam caught something etched into the stone foundation. Symbols, carved deep and precise, forming a circle. When Daniel joined her later, he brushed it off as old graffiti. But the humming sound stayed with Emma long after they'd gone back upstairs. That night, she dreamed of those symbols. Dreamed they were glowing red, pulsing like a heartbeat. The breaking point came during a thunderstorm. The family huddled in the living room, the wind howling outside. The lights flickered, then went out entirely. "It's just the storm," Daniel said, trying to keep everyone calm. But then came the laughter. It was faint at first, barely audible over the storm, but it grew louder and more distinct. A high-pitched, maniacal giggle that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Emma grabbed Lily and held her close. "Daniel, what is that?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Before he could respond, the basement door slammed open with a force that shook the house. The laughter stopped abruptly, replaced by a deafening silence. Daniel grabbed a baseball bat and cautiously approached the basement. As he reached the top of the stairs, the humming returned, louder this time. "Don't go down there," Emma pleaded, but Daniel was already descending. Minutes passed. Then a scream, a guttural, primal sound that made Emma's blood run cold. Daniel stumbled back up the stairs, his face pale and his eyes wide. "We're leaving, now." "What did you see?" Emma demanded, but he just shook his head, muttering, "We're not safe here." The family packed a few essentials and fled to a motel that night. Days later, Daniel finally told Emma what he had seen. In the basement, beneath those carved symbols, was a trapdoor. He had opened it, expecting to find old storage or maybe a forgotten crawl space. What he found instead was a cavern, its walls lined with bones. In the center, a figure crouched, impossibly thin, with eyes that glowed like embers. It looked up at him and smiled. The house was abandoned soon after, Neighbors reported strange noises and lights in the windows, but no one dared to enter. It was eventually condemned, left to rot and crumble. To this day, locals say if you pass by the house at night, you can still hear the laughter carried on the wind. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to hit subscribe, or check out the next story for even more sleepless nights.